Hey, what's up? This is Sean. Welcome to Scary Thoughts. This is a horror podcast I'm starting, and I wanted to start this for a long time. And at first, I thought, maybe I'll do. I wanted to do a podcast for a while, and I thought maybe I'll do one about books, or maybe I'll just do one about any movie, or maybe I'll do something about comic books. That's something I also like a lot. But they're all great, and they're all things that I like, but I guess horror movies are the one thing that I really love that I wanted to talk about. So, I've been watching horror movies since, God, I don't know, 6 or 7. Since I can remember, I was long enough to be scared. But, I love horror movies, I love horror books, and, there's some good horror comics out there. Stephen King's son even come to mind, Joe Hill. He writes this, or he did write a book called Lock and Key, which is really good. Um, I'm not a professional or anything. If you want, you can find me on Twitter. I don't even remember what my Twitter name is. I'll just put it in the description or whatever. But I wanted to make this first episode. This one's going to be a little bit shorter. I don't really have much to say. I want to talk about my favorite horror movies, kind of get my voice out there, figure out what type of podcast I want this to be. Like if I'm going to be goofy, I'm going to be goofy. I want to do this, I'm going to do that. But anyway, here are my favorite horror movies. I'll figure out the rest later when I'm doing whatever. My favorites are actually, you know what? Whenever I think of my favorite horror movie, I kind of like go in the back of my head for a little bit, but I know the first one I'm going to say is Scream. I don't know why Scream. Not even my favorite slasher movie, but it was the first horror movie that I saw that I just loved. And oh god, Jamie Kennedy's character Randy, that was just like that was me. That was me when I was a kid. I was just like, oh my god, this guy, he knows his stuff. He knows his shit, and it just really resonated. Perfect twist at the end. 2 killers. What? Yeah, Scream is definitely up there. Friday the 13th would probably be my favorite slasher, but if Scream is my favorite horror movie, then how is Friday the 13th my favorite slasher? I don't know. Well, I'll try and get into that later because I'm going to talk about different genres too. Um, Another favorite that comes to mind is Carrie. I read Carrie when I was a kid, the Stephen King book, before it was made into a movie, or before I knew it was made into a movie. I read the book and I was turning every page and I didn't want to finish it. I was just so scared, but it was so gripping and it was so good. I read it again later when I was in high school after I found out there was a movie, and then I watched the movie and it was terrifying. That movie scared the living shit out of me. I was just like, oh my god, Carrie's gonna get me. But yeah, then her hand pops out of the grave at the end, and that's just one more punch in the gut. Uh, I also love John Carpenter's movies, and that guy, he's one of my favorite directors like of all time. But one of his movies that I like a lot is The Thing, and that was just so terrifying to me. The dog scene with all the practical effects, and that's just probably going to go down as one of the best sci-fi movies, one of the best horror movies of all time. It's got to be. Another great sci-fi horror, which is probably my favorites too, is Alien. That, I mean, what more can you say? The chest burster, everything. It's so iconic. I like Army of Darkness a lot, which is, it's really campy. It's like a B movie. It's like a, it's like an homage to every B movie. It's like, I don't know, it's the perfect B movie. I love B movies, and that's probably one of the best ones. And the Evil Dead movie and the remake and the second one, I mean, those are great too, but for some reason Army of Darkness just edges it out. I can put that movie on whenever I'm feeling down or whatever, and it's always going to lift me up. It's just a great movie. Some of the recent movies that are coming out, I really like what James Wan is doing. I saw the trailer for Insidious when it was first coming out, and I was thinking, this isn't going to be a good movie. This is going to be another one of those, you know, churn crap fest. I didn't realize that he was the same guy who did Saw, and I really liked Saw when it first came out. And then the sequels kind of turned into torture porn, which I'm not really into. But Insidious ended up being really good. I didn't even watch it until last year, and I was just blown away. And then I just kind of went through all the James Wan stuff, and The Conjuring. Man, is that movie scary. I know there's not a lot of people that like it, or maybe there's a good deal of people that like it. Maybe I should rephrase that. But I know there's a lot of people that didn't like it, and I just thought it was terrifying. I really liked the 70s style, the really drawn out shots. Everything was just it was perfectly executed. I really liked that. And then there's another recent movie which I thought the script was perfectly executed, written by Josh Whedon and I probably should have looked that up, but Cabin in the Woods. That's just a great movie. I just thought that was brilliant. At first, I thought, "Oh my God, this is gonna be just another one of kids go to the cabin and they get killed," and then it just turned out to be something beautiful. Actually, the only reason that I saw it was because the chick from 30 Rock was in it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll go see that," and it ended up being great. I really loved it, and when you start talking about your favorite horror movies, it, it's easy to become pigeonholed into one particular genre because I just did it myself. I was talking about Scream, but I immediately went to Friday the 13th, and I don't know if anymore there's just a straight up horror movie. You think action movie, and you have the idea in your head. Oh, there's going to be explosions. There's probably going to be a car chase, and there's going to be some fist fights. It's going to be a good time. Think about horror movies. You got slasher movies. You got all different kinds of slasher movies. You got home invasions. You got this. You got that. There's also horror comedies, monster movies. One of my favorites. Fucking love monster movies. I'll probably do 40-minute video about monster movies one day or something. I don't know. Psychological thrillers. There's paranormal horror movies, and paranormal also is one of the ones that it's branching. It has so many different subgenres. There's the supernatural ones. There's demon possession. There's all kinds of things you can say. And then there's what's the difference between supernatural and paranormal? And that's a good question. Good question for another day. I just want to kind of gain my footing here on my first one, and I want to think about what actually makes a good horror movie and set up my scale. So when I do reviews later on, I'll know what criteria I should really go by, and what criteria I'm going by, you'll know. So, is it scary? Not all horror movies have to be scary. I mean, that sounds weird, but they don't. But if they're scary, if they're really scary, that's an added plus. The Babadook, probably not a typical horror movie. Really scary. I just thought it was terrifying, and one of the movies that came out recently that has actually scared me. A lot of them that are just being churned out. I don't give a shit about the characters. They don't have any depth to them. I don't care if they get killed. I don't care if they survive. But that was just it was an overwhelming sense of dread, and you really wanted the mother and the son to get through it. And it was just like duck, duck, duck. Very scary. Another one is it successful? And that's also one that is just like, well, it doesn't have to be successful. Like what makes it successful? Does it have sequels? Is it a big franchise? Obviously, Halloween was really successful, and it's got 10 movies and 3 remakes, or all these sequels. And what if it's just What if it just got a cult following? Like Wolf Cop, that's one that came out lately. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. It's on Netflix. I'm actually wearing a Wolf Cop shirt right now. That movie, I wouldn't think that it's financially successful. Released out of Canada last year, and it was released independently. I don't even think it hit theaters in the states, but it's already got a sequel. The director said that he's making it, and he's got a really good idea for it. And maybe that's what it is. I don't think the Toxic Avenger was necessarily considered successful when Tromaville first made it, but they ended up making 4 or 5 sequels. I can't remember, but I think the second one, Toxic Avenger 2, I think that came out a few years afterwards when the movie started actually getting popular, and that kind of goes into it. Is it memorable? The first horror movie I can remember seeing is The Birds, and that just scared the living shit out of me. That just, my God, I must have been 6 or 7. I was living in Norfolk, so yeah, I must have been 6 or 7. And I didn't go outside for probably 3 or 4 days. I wouldn't go out in the backyard with my dog. I just didn't want to see birds. Terrified me. I probably went up in my room and played with Hot Wheels or something. I don't know. But yeah. So I'll kind of be doing a scale of you know should you watch it? Is it a crap fest? Is it a good bad movie? What type of good is it? And if I'm doing a review on it, it'll probably be something I really liked or was just something awful. That's kind of why I'm making this. I want to go into all those areas, talk about all the typical characters or a movie that people within the horror community know about, but maybe not everyone else knows about. So maybe there's not reviews out there. Maybe you want to hear about it. I know I do. There's a lot of movies out there that people aren't talking about that I want to hear about. And this, also a lot of horror news out there. It would be easy if it was just funneled into one spot. So next week I'm going to be a lot more organized. I wanted to make my YouTube account, figure out how long I want it to be, this and that. And as I'm making this right now, I've got all these notes that I'm kind of just putting in the back of my head. So definitely leave me a comment if you listen. Next week I'll be doing another episode, and I just want to say thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening.